Hello and welcome or welcome back to my channel. We are post septoplasty. I know I've mentioned it in my past like 3 videos, but we're finally back. We're finally filming again. This is finally not pre-recorded content. If you see my nose dripping at any point in this video, no you did not. No you did not. I'm so sorry. With that being said, if I sound a little bit nasally, my nose is obviously still healing. She's all blocked up. Well, she's not blocked. My right nostril is exceptional, but my left one has swollen up a little bit, so still sounding a little bit nasally. But today I have a really fun video for you. We're gonna have a little bit of a mid-year check-in. I'm not entirely sure what this tag is called. I think it's called like a mid-year freakout, but it's also called like mid-year wrap-up, mid-year check-in. I don't know. But basically we're gonna go through a bunch of prompts and like questions, and I'm gonna answer them with some of the books that I've read from this year. We're gonna go through my favorites, my least favorites, my most disappointing, my most anticipated for the second half of the year. We're gonna go through it all, and I'm really excited to just talk about some books with you. And of course, if you do enjoy this video, please consider sticking around because I would love to have you here, and I have a lot of books and I love talking about them. Okay, so let's start with some statistics. I'm just taking these straight off of Goodreads because that's kind of all the statistics I have. I set my Goodreads reading goal to be 60 books. I've read 22. I think I read bang on 60 books last year, and I was like really close to reading 61, but I was like, no, I'll just push this over into the first of 2024. So I really thought I was gonna get 60, but I have really slowed down in my reading this year, which is so freaking sad. And honestly, it's gonna be a grind for the second half of this year because I'm determined to make 60 books. Like the fact I've only read 22, and I'm not saying 22 is a bad number. 22 is really impressive for only having 6 months. However, I set myself a goal and I know I'm capable of achieving it, so I'm like determined to meet it. Okay, so some statistics. Currently, so far in 2024, I've read 7,983 pages. The shortest book that I've read so far in 2024 is It Takes Two by Nikki Sloan. This is a little novella following 2 of the sort of side characters in The Frat Boy, which is a book that I read this year, and I was like interested in reading the other 2 characters' stories, so I obviously went off and read the novella. It's like 53 pages long. Honestly, just a smutty little time. They're 2 adult film creators, actors, I suppose is a better word, and it's just about them like meeting each other, getting together, and thinking about like starting their company, which obviously shows up in The Frat Boy. And then the longest book that I've read so far in 2024, which is kind of surprising, I don't know if Goodreads is lying to me, but apparently the longest book I've read this year is Say You Swear by Megan Brandy, which I have right here. This one is, according to Goodreads, 681 pages long, which I'm not buying that. The physical version is 536 pages long. Honestly, it's probably still the longest book I've read this year. The only contestant otherwise might be Six of Crows, which, no, it doesn't even come close. So I think Say You Swear probably still is the longest book I've read this year, but Goodreads is lying to me. The average book length in 2024 so far for me is 362 pages, which I feel like is pretty average, pretty good. My most shelved book comes as no surprise because, to be honest, I haven't read too many popular books this year, I don't think. But my most shelved book is, of course, Daisy Jones and the Six. This one is very accessible to a lot of people. Like, it's not stuck in one genre in specific, and it's also written very interestingly. It's something that I think a lot of people probably gravitate towards because everyone loves music and everyone's kind of curious about the story. And yeah, I can see why this one is the most popular that I've read, but I really enjoyed it and I'm gonna talk to you more about it later. Did I say 3 million people shelved this? 3 million people shelved it. And then my least shelved book with 2,363 shelves is The Enemy in My Bed by LK Shaw. This is the second book in this like whole little series. I didn't love it. It was a little bit too much consensual non-consent for me, which is not something that I enjoy reading in books, but I read it anyway. It was a quick read. I enjoyed the first book. I'm interested in the third one. I just didn't like this one particularly much. And my average rating for 2024 is really low. I feel really bad about this. My average rating at the moment is 3.7 stars, which I really wish Goodreads had the ability to do half stars because I feel like 3.7 is not reflective. Maybe it is. I've had a really bad run since finishing A Fate Inked in Blood. I don't think I've rated anything above a 3.5 star. 3.7 stars. I'm counting on the second half of this year to improve that for me. In keeping with the vlog that I did at the very beginning of this year, the highest rated on my Goodreads shelf that I read this year is Six of Crows, and I did vlog the experience if you're interested. And that is all of my statistics for you. So we're now going to get into talking about the actual books and answering the actual questions. For some questions I am going to include multiple answers because I'm indecisive. I cannot be asked to pick one book. However, I do have only one answer for the first question. So the first prompt is the best book that I have read so far in 2024, and I've mentioned her already in this video, and that is A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. This book, it encompasses everything that I want in a fantasy book. It wasn't too in-depth because, to be perfectly honest, I like zoning out while I'm reading. I'm not always using all of my brain cells while I'm reading. So this one, while it was still complex and very, very enjoyable, it was also quite simple to understand. The world building wasn't too hectic and the magic system was pretty simple. It is sort of a cross between like a historical romance and like a fantasy romance. There's fantasy elements, there's magic, but it's set during the Viking times and takes place obviously within Vikings. And personally, I find like everything about Vikings really, really fascinating. I want to watch some more documentaries about them because I just think it's so cool. But yeah, A Fate Inked in Blood was incredible. It follows Freya and Bjorn. Freya is... how much do I tell you so that I don't spoil it? So this book opens with Freya and her husband kind of fishing down at the beach. They're collecting fish, scaling them, gutting them, whatever. Because Freya's husband has this ability to... I can't remember what their god of like the sea is called, but he is a child of this god. So he has the ability to bring in the fish, feed the village. So Freya is helping him out with that. Her husband totals off again because, I don't know, he's got important shit to do. But Freya bumps into Bjorn, and Bjorn is like just having a bath in the beach basically, and they bump into each other, have a little bit of banter, and just go along on their merry ways. There's obviously some attraction, but you know, can't act on it. Miss Girl is married. Fast forward a little bit, we have the Jarl of the kind of nation, and he is just like trotting on down, brings a few of his men to go and check on Freya and her husband and like collect some fish, do whatever they're doing, and lo and behold, who happens to be a part of this guy's men, who happens to be this Jarl's son, Bjorn. And Bjorn is actually a child of Tyr, so he can like conjure fire magic, and he has this like flaming axe, and it's really badass. And Freya, in a fit of rage because her husband is a real piece of work, she snatches Bjorn's axe and throws it into her husband's head, and the guy dies, obviously. But it was really badass, and the Jarl's son sees this, and he's just kind of like, no one should have the ability to touch Bjorn's axe. You're a little bit special. And so he collects Freya, he takes Freya off and puts her under Bjorn's care to kind of like look after her, guide her, because Freya has a little something special going on. And I think that's kind of all I want to say. That's like the first few chapters of the book. I really, really love this book so, so much. I get so carried away talking about it because I just think it's so fascinating, and it's honestly just like my favorite thing ever. It's probably my top 3 favorite books ever. Like, this book and me, we're like this. Next question is for the best sequel that I've read so far in 2024, and I actually haven't read a lot of sequels, so I've got some slim pickings. I don't really have much to choose from. So best sequel, and one of the only sequels that I've read this year, is Sable Pig by Devney Perry. I really, really enjoyed this book. I think it was the perfect conclusion to the whole Eden series. This one follows Mateo, and I'm not actually going to tell you her name. Is it on the back of the book? It is on the back of the book. Okay, so this book follows Mateo and Vera, and Vera has had a pretty rough upbringing. I'm not going to tell you anything about it because it is shown in one of the other books, but Vera has had a pretty rough upbringing, and she's not particularly familiar with how the world works. And so this book basically just follows her and Mateo as they like teach each other about the world and slowly fall in love. And Mateo was actually a single dad as well, and the relationship that he has with his daughter, and then the daughter forms with Vera, is really, really sweet, and I just loved everything about this book. Mateo's also a pilot, if you like a man who can fly a plane, because personally I think that's kind of hot. Yeah, I think this book was the perfect conclusion to this series. I really, really enjoyed it. It was just like a very simple, basic sort of small town romance, but seeing all of the family come together and like seeing their ending and their like happily ever afters, a perfect ending to it. And it's also setting up the like future next generation spin-off books. I hope, fingers crossed, please Devney, I need them. I hope she's actually gonna write them. That's like not confirmed, but I would love to see the next generation of this series. And yeah, I don't know how it's gonna work because they're all related. They're all cousins. Anyway, the next little prompt is for a new release that I haven't read yet, but I want to. I have a lot of new releases in my possession. I didn't think I had a lot until I was going through my bookshelves to film this video, but I have a lot. First one on my list is Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This is again another small town romance. It follows Ford, who is Willa from the Chestnut Spring series, brother, and he has like a little recording company. Rosie is his best friend's little sister, I want to say, and I love that trope so much. Like, it's a little bit taboo, a little bit forbidden, a little bit sneaky around vibes. I'm really excited to get to it. I'm not sure when I will. Maybe come summertime when I can like lay out in the sun. This book might just serve its purpose. The next new release has actually been out for quite a while, but I only recently got it into my possession yesterday. I bought this book yesterday, and that book is When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I know I have the ebook version, but listen, Kmart had it for cheap, so I was like, I can't resist, okay? That's a lot of book for a small amount of money. Anyway, after I finished A Fate Inked in Blood, I was like, I'm gonna become a fantasy girl, actually. So I figured this one is another very popular one at the moment. I think it came out in January of this year, so not really a new release, but still kind of new, still came out this year, so I'm gonna count it anyway. Since buying this book and since kind of like committing to it and putting it on my TBR and whatever, I've heard some not so great things about it. I've heard the storytelling and the world building is not the most fleshed out. Apparently it's very confusing, so I'm a little bit scared to read it. I will probably vlog my experience when I read it, so you and I can suffer through this together. I shouldn't say that. I know nothing about it. Anyway, this is a new release that I'm really excited to read. I'm scared of it, but I'm also excited. Then the next new release, I have 4 total because I couldn't help myself. I want to read all of them. The next new release that I'm really excited for is All My Kisses For You by Monica Murphy. This is the first book in the Next Generation series of the Lancaster Prep series. I read A Million Kisses in Your Lifetime, I want to say like 2 years ago, and I adored that book so much at the time that I read it. I don't know if I'd love it now, and I've sort of fallen out of love with Monica Murphy's writing a little bit, but I'm hoping this book can bring it back for me, and regardless, it's gonna have some nostalgia for me, so I definitely am really looking forward to reading it. And finally, the last anticipated read that I have, I think this one is maybe the one that I'm most excited for. I just recently finished reading Watch Your Mouth by Candy Steiner, and at the end of this book there was a little excerpt for Learn Your Lesson, which came out a month or 2 ago, maybe a month ago, and I read the excerpt and I wanted to dive into this book straight away. But obviously the next anticipated book that I have, new release, is Learn Your Lesson by Candy Steiner. This again is single parent. I don't know why I gravitate towards single parent so much, but this one follows Daddy P and his daughter's preschool kindergarten teacher, and it's their relationship, because I think the kindergarten teacher sort of looks out for his daughter, sort of like it takes her under her wing because Daddy P's wife passed away. I already really like the characters just from that little snippet I read, so I'm hopefully gonna read this one very soon and I'm hopefully gonna love it. And following on from that question in a similar fashion, we have my most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I have one answer for this, and it is very straightforward, and it is Daydream by Hannah Grace. This is Henry's book. He's so just like sweet and cute, and I'm really looking forward to his book. I'm pretty sure it's like a tutoring sort of moment, maybe a little bit of fake dating. I'm not really sure. I'm sure Hannah's probably released the blurb and I just haven't read it. But you know what? I want to go into it blind. I really loved Icebreaker. I quite enjoyed Wildfire. So I'm very interested to see how the rest of the cast at Maple Hills goes. And I'm very intrigued to read Henry's book because he's a little cutie pie, and I think that is probably my most anticipated read for the latter half of 2024. And now we're gonna swing in the total opposite direction. We're gonna be a little bit of a negative Nelly, a bit of a negative Nancy for a second, and we're gonna talk about my biggest disappointment. You know, I've had a lot of mediocre reads, but there's only one book that stands out as being really disappointing. And I feel so bad saying this. Oh my god, okay. The biggest disappointment so far of this year for me was By Fate I Conquer by Cora Riley. It pains me so much to say this because I adore Cora, but her recent releases of the Born in Blood series just haven't been hitting particularly hard. At least for me and a lot of other people, we just haven't really been enjoying them. By Fate I Conquer follows the children of the kind of 2 top capos from the original Komoro Chronicles and Born in Blood series. So we have the son from New York and we have the daughter from Las Vegas, and they meet somehow and get into a relationship, and it's forbidden and the parents don't like each other anymore, and there's a bit of war and there's a bit of conflict and a bit of resolution, but it was written really badly. I wish I could tell you like more about the plot, but I genuinely don't think I can remember much of this book at all. Greta falls in the water, she can't swim, Amo jumps in and rescues her. Nivio, I don't want to read his book. I didn't like the character relationships. I didn't like how the sort of characters from the OG books, how they had changed in this series. I think they're very different to how they were originally written, which does make sense. They mature with children, they mature as they grow older, but I just didn't like them. I didn't like how they were portrayed. I also just like didn't really like any of the side characters. There was not a whole lot of plot. I didn't like it. I'm sorry, Cora. Still love you. Love your old stuff. Didn't like this one. And we're gonna move on because I don't like being negative. Next prompt that I have is for the biggest surprise that I've read this year, and there's actually two of them. The two books that I'm going to talk about are both very popular, and I didn't think I was going to like either of them particularly much. So the first one was Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I simply put don't read YA. Don't really like YA, and I realize I'm definitely cutting myself off from some fantastic books from saying that. That's not like a hard rule of mine, but typically I just don't really like reading YA. However, this one was kind of good. This one was pretty good. Would it have been a little bit better if there was maybe some spice? Yeah, but I still really enjoyed it. I think I ended up giving this one a 5-star. I read it again in a vlog earlier this year and I really actually surprised myself. I really liked it. I loved the characters. There's a big like super fleshed out heist plot to it. It's like very convoluted. There's heaps of like ties everywhere. There's heaps of characters to keep track of, but Leigh does a fantastic job of keeping track of them and making sure you remember who everyone is. And I really liked the kind of core the six crows. I really liked all the crows, and I think this book was just written really well, and it was a very good, I guess, sort of introduction to more fantasy. I would absolutely recommend it because Kaz and Inej, I love Inej so much. She's like this little secret assassin. She acts on Kaz's beck and call, and there's like a little bit of tension between them in their relationship because they both sort of like have a little crush on each other, and it's just like makes me giggle and kick my feet and just like, I don't know, it was really good. I really enjoyed this book and I'm surprised that I liked it because again, it's YA and it's fantasy. And the second book that I'm surprised that I actually really liked is Addicted to You by Krista and Becca Ritchie. I finished this one very recently. There wasn't necessarily a reason that I didn't think I was gonna like this book, but I just put it off for like 3 years. It's literally the indie version of it because I've had it that long and I can't get the rest of the series in indie, which is so sad. But yeah, I'm actually so shocked that I love this one. It follows Lily and Lo, who both have addiction. So Lo is an alcoholic. He's very high functioning, but he is an alcoholic, and Lily is addicted to sex, and it basically just follows the two of them enabling each other and like covering for each other as they go through this fake relationship that gradually turns into something that's not so fake. I thought I would find the addiction aspect of it interesting, but I thought I would get like over it and sick of it by the end of the book, but honestly I didn't. I still found it interesting by the end of the book, and I thought it was a fairly good portrayal. I also really liked the found family in this book. There was such a fantastic found family. I'm absolutely going to continue the series. I'm a little bit apprehensive of reading Ricochet. I've heard it's kind of the least entertaining, and I can see why given where the plot is, but yeah, I'm just really interested to continue the series, and I'm very surprised that I ended up liking this book. Moving on, because I can feel my voice fading, we are going to talk about my favorite new author. This can either be a debut author or an author who is new to me. I have actually only read one book from this author, but I can tell the more books that I read from her, the more and more I'm gonna fall in love. And that author is Kennedy Ryan, and Longshot is the only book that I've read from her. But Kennedy just has such an emotive way of storytelling, and she's also a Black woman, which I love. I'm really looking for like authors from a more diverse background, so I'm very excited that I found Kennedy to kind of give me different aspects on romance and like different backgrounds of characters and things like that, because some of the just depth of the cultural ties that Iris in particular has this book, I really enjoyed reading about and learning about. And I believe she does also have some like trauma relating to a natural disaster that happened in the area that she was from. I think it was somewhere in Louisiana, like a really bad flood. So that was really interesting learning about, and it was very interesting reading about how Kennedy wrote about it as well. And she really just had such a fantastic way of like ingraining that history and that culture into Iris's character and her storyline, and my nose is dripping. Her writing is just spectacular. Like, it's so emotive, really takes you on the journey. It's just really immerses you in the story, to be honest. And I love that her characters are not perfect, but they're so fleshed out that you just fall in love with them anyway. So I'm really looking forward to reading some more books of her. I think next up I'm probably going to read Blockshot. I've heard some controversial things about that one because it has cheating involved, but I'm excited for it nonetheless. If anyone can pull it off, it's Kennedy Ryan. The next question on my list is for my newest fictional crush. Now, I have a couple written down. I have 2 written down, but one of them I feel like is a little bit of a spoiler for one of these books, so I'm not sure if I want to talk about it. But one of them, obviously, Bjorn. what's his even second name? I'm having such a blank right now. Anyway, Bjorn from Fate Inked in Blood. I love him so much. The little caretaking scenes between him and Freya live in my head, in my heart, rent free. I think they're so sweet. I really, really enjoyed reading about them, and Bjorn is just like this big bad Viking man who has a bit of a soft spot. My other newest fictional crush is Matthias from Six of Crows, and I'm not going to elaborate because I don't want to spoil it for you. And we're going to move on to my newest favourite character, and again, there is a very clear winner for this question in my mind, and it is Freya. Again, from A Fate Inked in Blood, because this has been my favourite book so far this year, so of course I'm going to love it. Freya is so freaking strong, so resilient in the face of adversity. This girl, she really steps up, and I really appreciate that in a character. And I've seen a couple of people get like frustrated with her in Fate Inked in Blood, and I just can't really understand why, because I feel like she was portrayed so well to the fact that she feels very realistic in her apprehension to kind of go along on this storyline. But at the end of the day, she needs to, she gets it done, she's just cool. And I really like her, and I think she's such like a badass character, and I really, really like how she's been written. And one of my friends who I made read A Fate Inked in Blood put it in such like fantastic words and such like a poetic way of explaining how fantastic Freya is, and I feel like I'm failing at conveying how just cool she is, but I really, really love her. I think she's such a strong female character, and I'm very much looking forward to reading the rest of her story when the next few books come out. Moving on to the next prompt. The question is for a book that made you cry, and I vlogged this, obviously. It was Daisy Jones and the Six. I've had a lot of books make me cry this year. I feel like, I don't know that I've been getting more emotionally invested than usual, but I feel like I've just been crying easier, which probably a good thing, you know? Let those emotions out. I really enjoyed the journey that the band took me on and that we went on. I think the whole experience of the book is what made it like so impactful and fantastic, because I listened to the audiobook, and obviously each character was voiced differently because it's written a bit like an interview style where each character just speaks in dialogue, and obviously the audiobook reflects that, and that made it such an immersive experience. And the voice actors also did such a fantastic job. Like, they really conveyed the emotions and really brought the story to life, and she made me cry. And the next question is for a book that made me happy. I did have to just pull one off that stack because I forgot about it, but a book that made me happy this year was Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. I didn't actually tell you what this book was about earlier, but it follows Iris and August. They meet very, very briefly at the beginning of the book and have this sort of like instant connection. They feel really compelled to like just keep hanging out and being together, but Iris is in a pretty serious, pretty committed relationship, and August, being the respectful man that he is, decides to just leave it, just move on, and just like be okay with only having that one moment with her. However, this man that Iris was in a relationship with, it turns out to be very abusive, very manipulative, and unfortunately or fortunately, they have a daughter together. This daughter is beautiful, and she's like the light of Iris's life. This book, it has very in detail abuse. Like, it's on page and it's intense, it's very detailed, and obviously that didn't make me happy. But getting to the end of this book and seeing Iris escape that situation and return to August, and seeing their relationship blossom, and seeing Iris get everything that she deserves, and seeing her get that happiness that she's like been searching for, made me really happy. The majority of the book is actually in Iris's point of view, so you're really following her through the entire journey. So yeah, just seeing her get that happy ending at the end was really, really sweet. Made me very, very happy. I feel like I'm fading fast right now, but we've got 2 questions left and I'm determined to see them out. So the next question is for the most beautiful book that I've bought so far this year, and I don't actually have it. I ordered this book a couple of days ago. I was really counting on Amazon to get it to me, but she's failed me. She's coming tomorrow. The most beautiful book that I'm going to have in my possession that I bought so far this year is Sea of Ruin by Pam Godwin. This cover is stunning. There's just something about it that really gets me going. I just love the composition of the cover. I think it's gorgeous. I love the pirate ship in it with the sails, and the girl who's like obviously fallen into water, floating down with her dress like dragging behind her, I guess. I just love every aspect of this cover. I think it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. Can't wait to read this book. I'm a little bit scared of it because I know some of the content that happens in it, and it's quite dark, and there's some consent or non-consent, which Not my favorite, as we established earlier, but I'm still really excited to read this one. Again, it's another like historical kind of romance, and after reading A Fate Inked in Blood, again, favorite book, hello. I'm really excited to get into some more historical romance, and hopefully this one lives up to everything that I want it to live up to. And for the sake of including some of the physical books from my bookshelves that I can hold up and show you, I do have a couple of others with really beautiful covers. So the first one is Collide by Balcabra. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering that, but I just love the color scheme of this cover. I know it's cartoon cover, we're sick of seeing them, but this one I think is really, really cute. And I think this one is sort of justified in its cuteness, justified in its cartoon covers, I don't know, but it is a hockey romance. I'm really excited to read it. I love hockey romances so much. I don't actually know, she's a sports psychologist. I was about to say physio. I was about to freak out. Oh my god. Okay, so the coach nominates him to be a part of a research project which she, I'm assuming, is conducting. That's the word I was looking for, conducting. I'm assuming she's conducting it. That is such like an interesting concept, and I'm really actually very interested in it. I hope there's like quite a bit of psychology in it, and like about the athlete psychology, because I think that would be very very as well. I know a couple of my friends, 18, hi girl, or how reads, hey girl, I know she loved this book and will not stop raving about it, so I'm really interested to check it out, and hopefully I can get to it soon. And then last for my most beautiful covers is Southern Storms by Brittany Cherry. I just think this cover is beautiful. I love the color scheme. I just think it's such a beautiful, gorgeous pattern. Unfortunately, I didn't love this book that much. I'm interested in checking out the next one in the series. I'm still interested in reading Brittany Cherry, but this one just wasn't my favorite. But the cover, the cover, still beautiful. And then one more shout out for beautiful covers, because how can I not? I'm gonna give it to The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. This is a book that, again, I bought yesterday. I bought 2 books yesterday, 2 fantasies. Look at me go. This one, I just love the composition and the color scheme. It's one that's sort of grown on me. When I first saw it, I wasn't in love, didn't really like it, but I just think it is really beautiful. I just love the composition. It honestly just looks like it's been painted in Photoshop or Procreate or something. I just really like it, and I like the sort of like artistic, blocky, you can see the paint strokes kind of style to it as well. And yeah, I just think it's very pretty. And finally, for the last question of this video, we have, what books do I want to read by the end of the year? I have 2 of them. Neither of them are romance, which is probably why I haven't read them yet. But the first one is The Serpent and the Wings of the Night. I'm scared of this book. Quite frankly, scared. I can't even really put my finger on why. Probably just because I built it up so much in my mind. This book is like so hyped, like peak fantasy romantasy in my mind, which makes it very scary for me to read. Hopefully I get around to reading this one. I think the fact that they're vampires also scares me a little bit, because I'm like, I don't know if I love vampires, but we're gonna give it a go. Hopefully. I am intrigued by the kind of like Hunger Games comparison that's been made to this book, because I don't know, I want to read about some tournaments, but I'm also scared of this book, so we'll see how we go. And then the other book that I want to read by the end of 2024 is Mayfly by CJ Lead. I'm fairly certain Mayfly is based off of American Psycho, but it's obviously has a female protagonist. I've never read or seen American Psycho, so I don't really know what it's about. I'm very curious as to how it's going to translate into this book. This is a horror. I've never read horror before, and I've heard it's quite gory, which, not gonna lie, is the reason I picked it up. I actually quite like gore in like movies and TV shows, so I'm hoping that's going to translate to this book as well, because she's quite gory and I'm kind of looking forward to it, but I'm also a little bit scared. I really want to do a video where I read books outside of my comfort zone, and obviously this book is going to be one of them. I think Maeve is going to be a very interesting character. I'm pretty sure her day job is being like a Disney princess that goes and does children's parties, and then she's like a murderer at night or something. But I'm really excited to read it, but I'm also a bit scared. That's the reason I put these 2 books off for so long, is because I'm scared of them. But there we have all of the books that I've talked about today. I had a really good time. I always love just sort of doing little unscripted videos or talking about books, because I think it's so fun, and I had a good time. I feel like I need to like pose with them, hug them, I don't know. But yeah, I had a really good time in today's video. I hope I've kind of introduced you guys to maybe some new books. Honestly, looking at them, there's a lot of popular books, so maybe not. But I really hope you guys enjoyed watching today's video. Do let me know down below if you've read any of these books, what your thoughts on them were. Let me know what your favorite one was. Let me know what your most disappointing read so far of this year has been. I want to hear them all. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did enjoy, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My nose is dripping. If you want to follow me and my dripping nose those on Instagram or Goodreads. They are always linked in the description if you want to check them out. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching for the second or third time, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye!